three. Terrence Ross just did this over the manimal.
Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada.
What is happening, Raptorland? Sean here with you as the Raptors' furious comeback falls short in the 94-92 loss to the Bulls. This is the Raptors Wrap-Up. So let's just start with the fact that this just felt like a playoff game, with a game and a half separating Toronto and Chicago between the 3rd and 4th seed, and facing the prospect that the Raptors would win the season series and hold the tiebreaker over Chicago with a win. This game was played with a lot of emotion and intensity throughout, highlighted by the fact that there were 7 technical fouls called in this game, and Taj Gibson and Kyle Lowry both fouled out. This was the Bulls' first game out of the All-Star break, and their energy was apparent early. They bullied Toronto on the glass. It came out of the gate with a greater sense of desperation needing this game, putting up 31 points in the first quarter and holding a 10-point lead after one. Noah was all over the court early as Jonas was simply not ready physically or emotionally for this type of matchup. As a result, Jonas finished with only 2 points and 2 rebounds in 22 minutes. Other than giving him another opportunity early in the third quarter, Casey really didn't go back to Jonas very much in what had to be his most disappointing effort of the season. Carlos Boozer paced the Bulls' offense early, and with the trade of Luol Deng last month, Boozer is now actually the Bulls' leading scorer, and getting him back in the lineup for the second game back from injury was a huge boost for the Bulls. He set the tone early by scoring 9 points with 6 rebounds in the first quarter alone. The Raptors' offense just couldn't get anything to fall early in the first, and as a result, DeMar took over to try and keep the team in it. He had the mid-range jumper going early as DeRozan had 12 points in less than 8 minutes and scored 12 of the team's first 14 points of the game. It was just another step in DeMar's growth, realizing that the team didn't have it early and that he needed to pick up the offense until the rest of the team found their legs. Neither team played very well in the second quarter as the Raps won at 2017, but it was nice to see Toronto start to match Chicago's intensity on the defensive end. Hansbrough came in, and you could see immediately that he was the only big really matching the intensity of the Bulls' front line. In the second half, the Bulls regained that sense of urgency, and the Raptors were once again sluggish out of the gate. A 7-point halftime deficit ballooned all the way up to 15 midway through the third quarter. At that point, Hansbrough came back into the game for the first time in the second half, and over the final 5 minutes of the third quarter, the Raptors allowed just 4 points, while DeRozan and Lowry stepped up offensively to cut the Bulls' lead to 70-62 after 3. After a strong showing in the second quarter, it was surprising to see Casey go back to Patterson, Amir, and especially Jonas for more than half of the third quarter. It was clear that Hansbrough's energy and toughness was just made for this type of game, and the Raptors as a whole seemed to flip once he came back in. This was the type of game where Jonas could really learn a lot, and Casey maybe wanted to throw him into the fire to show him what he can expect in the playoffs. But unfortunately, keeping him in there too long in the third quarter, in my opinion, was the difference in this game. In the fourth, the Raptors really came together as a team and finally matched the compete level Chicago had shown early in the game. They worked on defense, and despite some back-breaking 3 balls by former Raptor DJ Augustine, they just didn't quit when it would have been easy to. No matter how hard they fought, Toronto just couldn't seem to get the deficit under 7 before finally breaking through with under 5 minutes to play. DeRozan had 7 points in a 5-minute stretch late in the game as Boozer clearly lit a fire under him after some jawing led to double techs. Despite late jumpers from Heinrich and Augustine, the Raptors' defense allowed them an opportunity to steal it down the stretch. But Jimmy Butler, as he's known for, played great defense on DeRozan, not allowing him to get a good look from 13 feet or on a half-court heave, both of which would have been for the win. The Raptors erased 3 different 15-point deficits in this game, but ultimately fell short 94-92. And one stat they can look to was an uncharacteristic 3 for 17 shooting night from beyond the arc, while Chicago was 7 of 12 from distance, including DJ Augustine, who was 4 of 5 from 3, and really looked like he wanted to stick it to his former team. DeRozan finished up with 32 points and 5 rebounds. He competed hard, but was visibly frustrated by the lack of calls he was getting in the second half. This was the type of game where the refs swallowed their whistles on both sides, and that's something DeMar is just going to have to fight through in the future heading into the playoffs, because obviously as you enter the playoffs, the refs do let a little bit more go, so this was a valuable learning experience for him. The Bulls got great games from the point guard position, as Augustin and Heinrich combined for 38 points. Both seemed to hit timely jumpers whenever the Raptors were trying to make a push. Augustin's offensive outburst in the fourth did just enough to lift Chicago to the win, while Heinrich's length helped him do the job defensively on Lowry, who could never seem to bust out and lead the Raps on a run as he so often does. Jimmy Butler and Joakim Noah combined for 19 assists. On a night when the point guards were scoring, the Bulls' best two players did what was needed and looked to set up their teammates and play hard D. So just some final thoughts. This was a great learning experience for the Raptors. Make no mistake, this isn't Washington or Atlanta. They haven't played in a game this intense and ugly. They were caught off guard early, but adjusted as the game went along. Casey and the staff should now have a better idea of the kind of rotation they'll need to use in games like these, or even if these two meet in the playoffs. Despite the loss, there are a lot of positives to take away, especially on the defensive end later in the game. And despite large deficits, if the Raptors could have had a few more threes drop, they easily could have stolen this one. That is going to do it for this edition of the Raptors Wrap-Up. I'm going to have another episode today rounding up all the action in the NBA trade deadline. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Raptors Wrap-Up, where I live tweet games and give all my thoughts going on around the association. If there's anything you'd like to see in this vlog or have me talk about specifically, just leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to read it. Thanks for watching.